When my back is feeling really locked up, whether that's tension coming down from my shoulders or my hips are tight and that's making my low back feel tight, my favorite pose to do is L pose. And L pose is really just a modified downward facing dog that you're doing the pose against the wall. And that's going to take pressure off of your shoulders, pressure off of your wrists, and it's going to give you a better stretch through your lower body as you figure out where your stretch is. So you want to stay comfortable moving into and out of this stretch. You don't want to overstretch your upper body or your lower body. And here's how we're going to avoid that. So two things you're going to pay attention to. First one is the stretch along the back side of your arms coming down into your back. So through your triceps and your latissimus dorsi here. If you start to feel overstretched in that area, stop. That's where your stretch is today, and that's fine. The other place, when it comes to the hips, we're going to do some pelvic tilts here. So think about if there's a door handle on each side of your hips, and you can tip those forward, but you can also tip those back without drastically changing where your feet are or where your shoulders are. Just the motion of the hips moving back and forth. So as we're moving into the pose, if you get to a point that you cannot maintain the position and still do a pelvic tilt or two there, stop. Take another tiny step back towards the wall until you get your pelvic tilt back, and that's where you're at today. And I cannot stress this enough. Stay comfortable. The more comfortable you are and you can surrender and relax into that pose, the more benefit you're going to get out of it. If this is really uncomfortable for you, your body's actually going to tighten up to protect your shoulder, protect your hips and your spine. So stay comfortable, relax into it. So to come into your L pose, you're going to start with your arms bent 90 degrees. They're parallel to each other, your upper arms parallel to the floor. And keeping that position in your arms, just come right up to a wall. Press into the wall from your elbows all the way up through your fingertips. Nice deep breaths. Standing tall, rising up through your crown. Now we're slowly going to take a step back away from the wall. So little baby step, moving one foot back, then the other, and making sure that they are still an equal distance from the wall. But now, instead of staying in the straight plank position, move your hips back over your heels. It's going to do two things. You might start to feel a stretch through the underside of your arms. That's great. You also might notice that to get there, you had to stick your butt out a little bit. And that's fine because that's where the pelvic tilt comes in. So hands still right where they started on the wall. And to do your pelvic tilts, start by spreading your sit bones back and apart. So that really bony part of your butt. Just going to move your thighs back and away from each other. And then the reverse of that, going to tuck your tailbone slightly down between your thighs. So broaden your sit bones back and apart and tuck your tailbone. Now, if that's easy in this position, go ahead and take another tiny step back. Keep your hands where they are. Tiny step. And you might want to move in small steps. This starts to get really intense really quick. So now bring your butt back, keeping your hands where they are. Your elbows might have to come off the wall, and that's okay, because we're just moving further into the stretch. And pressing into the wall through your hands. Again, we're going to do a couple of pelvic tilts. Sit bones come back and apart. Tailbone tucks under. Just one more. All right. And you might notice that as you come into this pose, you get a little less range of motion in those pelvic tilts as you come down. That's okay. So another tiny step back. Arms can straighten out, and as they need to, start moving your arms down the wall. Hands flat, pressing into the wall. And again, how do your arms feel? Are you still able to do your pelvic tilts? And this time we'll add a little breath to it. So inhale, spread your sit bones back and apart. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under. Inhale, widen the sit bones. Exhale, tailbone tucks. And coming back to neutral here, wiggle it out a little bit. And again, another tiny step back. Feet are planted, and then my hands move. And as you might start to notice, the L we're looking for is your body shape. And you can even get to where you're sinking your chest further below your hips. So again, with the pelvic tilts here, inhale, widen back and apart. Exhale, tailbone tucks under. One more. And tailbone tucks. Now, we're not going to step back so much here, but I am going to keep bringing my hands down the wall and see if I can come more into that 90-degree position. Chest sinks, and your shoulder blades move down your back as you come into the pose. And as you find your stability in your pose, one more time, pelvic tilts. Inhale, back and apart. Exhale, the tailbone tucks under. Two more here. Just moving with your breath. And always come back to center. And really let that stretch sink into your body. Grounding into the floor as well as the wall. Come out of the pose, bring your body closer to the wall, and slowly start to walk your hands up the wall and your feet back towards the wall. And give yourself a moment to let your back stabilize, your shoulders relax. And that's your L pose for today. So this is a great pose to work into your day. I like to do it at some point every day, whether that's up against the wall, even if you have a counter that's at a good height for you to get into that position, wherever you know that that stretches for you. But find somewhere to work it into your day-to-day routine, somewhere that you might already have a couple of minutes that you're not being incredibly productive with anyways. We all have those, right? And the beauty of it is it takes a couple of minutes, so once you're done, carry on.